What's going on, boys and girls, and welcome back to Nth-Level Entertainment, the most awesome geek and car culture YouTube channel in South Africa. I am your host, Iswele Tumashangu, and today we're talking Wonder Woman 1984. Now, this was my first time out to the theater in about a year and a few months, ever since lockdown started. And I will say it was a worthwhile reason to get back into the theater to actually go and see a superhero film. And Wonder Woman 1984 didn't disappoint. It was actually quite an entertaining experience. I watched it in IMAX. The sound was beautiful. I'm actually, it's been a while since I've experienced that kind of an immersive theater experience because I haven't been to the movies in such a long time. And to watch a superhero movie of this caliber in that kind of experience was quite something to behold. So this film, of course, was directed by Patty Jenkins, just like the first film. And Zack Snyder, I think, was also a producer on the film. And that the latter fact actually becomes quite apparent later on in the film. So basically, this one is not set in present day, just like the first Wonder Woman film was set in World War I. This one is set in 1984. And I think the theme about the film was greed. It actually was quite smart that it was a period piece, so to speak. That was what I was looking for. The villain is Maxwell Lord, who we all know from the comics has always been a Lex Luthor type. He's an industrialist, he's a businessman. He's, after world domination, but, through the business world, so to speak, similar to Lex Luthor. But Lex Luthor was a bit more maniacal. His own aspirations were a bit grander, even though they were still business-wise, but they were all about, world domination and getting rid of Superman, basically, because in his own mind, he saw Superman to be a threat to the world, that, no one should have that much power. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked with Lex Luthor. So it stars Maxwell Lord, who's played by Pedro Pascal, who we've all been watching in The Mandalorian recently, even though he's only shown his face a couple of times in that series. And he played him quite well. I was quite surprised with how he played him because I always knew Maxwell Lord to be, a just straight up American white guy, so to speak, Pedro Pascal played him to be this, a bit of a Latino kind of thing, I don't know if that's a departure from who the guy is in the comics. I'll have to do my research on that, but it did throw me for a loop in a bit, but he played it pretty well. And he was just a businessman trying to make it kind of thing, and he had a lot of pressure on his hands. He was trying to, carry himself and succeed in such a way that his son would be proud of him. And the pressure was just getting to him as far as that's concerned. And and then until he finds, this MacGuffin that gets everything started in the film. Wonder Woman herself, we can see that she's come a long way since the last time we saw her. When I say the last time we saw her, I'm talking about Wonder Woman 1, because the continuity doesn't carry on from where Batman vs. Superman as well as Justice League did. We're still sort of going back in time, but we can see that it's been a few decades, things have developed, she's sort of found her place in the world. She's working at, I think, a art conservatory, something along those lines. I want to say museum, but it was a bit more than that. And we can see that, she's kind of like found her flow in the world. One would expect her to work at a place that deals with art and antiquities, seeing as how she's someone who's been alive for so long. So she would be a bit of an authority on subjects like that. And that's also where we are introduced to Barbara Minerva, aka Cheetah, who actually works as a colleague to Diana Prince in the art place. And we see that she's, first introduced as a awkward, geeky girl who's not very attractive and so on and so forth. And until she gets a hold of the MacGuffin itself. Now, the MacGuffin itself is, I think it was called a Dreamstone. I can't remember the actual word, but what it does is it grants your wishes. And that's the part of the film I have a bit of a problem with, in that it made things all too convenient, I also got a bit of a vibe from the general tone of the film that it was a bit cheesy kind of thing, It was the kind of cheese that we used to get in campy superhero films like, Superman 1 and the 1989 Batman by not Bruce Timm, the guy who did Edward Scissorhands. I forget his name, but it was basically in the tone of, gosh golly, Batman kind of thing, but not quite that far. We could see that, the 80s was an age where people were the most hopeful that I think the world has ever been, as far as if we had to look back at certain decades. Because that's the time when people believed anything is possible. That's when self-help became a very popular thing as far as an industry is concerned, because it also contributed to that kind of mindset, where people, if you dream it, you can have it, believe in yourself, you can have the world, you can be successful. So the Dreamstone was fitting as a plot device in the movie as far as that context is concerned. But I felt that it made things a little too convenient, because everything just started from there. And, we saw people making their wishes, I think 10 minutes into the movie or something, we see Cheetah wishing to be more like Diana, to be strong and sexy and all of that stuff. And it eventually happens over time, and she gets her powers as well. And Wonder Woman herself also just, in passing, just says she knows what she would wish for, and we see the Dreamstone taking effect. And you see, even that was a bit corny, in that I saw a gust of wind, like the effect that they chose to show that the Dreamstone is now activating, that there would be this sort of gust of wind that just randomly blows through the room every time somebody makes a wish. And we see that happen with Wonder Woman as well. And eventually Steve Trevor comes back in the body of someone else. I was always curious as to exactly how they're going to do it. It looked like they used the quantum leap format, as far as, how the main character would jump into different points in time and space, and he would inhabit different bodies. So that's the method in which they brought Steve Trevor back. And Chris Pine, he knocked the role out of the park, obviously, as he always does. His comedic / action timing in this film was just stellar. He actually topped himself from the previous movie, because now he was the one who was playing a fish out of water, not knowing what things are like in this decade, because he's from 1945, and Wonder Woman is now the one who's showing him around. And no, that's not a piece of art, that's a trash can, for example. That's a scene that we've seen from the trailer. So we see a lot of that happening. And of course, as usual, he's her wingman. He's helping out with things when they happen. He's using his expertise as a pilot and also as a soldier. And eventually we see Barbara Minerva Cheetah finally making her full transformation into becoming Cheetah. Whereas at first she was basically just an Amazonian, and she made, she had all of Wonder Woman's powers, and whenever the two would clash, because she decided that Maxwell Lord cannot be killed, because she didn't want to give up what she wished for. These are powers and abilities that she always relished. That kind of life basically is something she always wanted. And so she decided to go against Wonder Woman, because they all decided that the right thing to do would be to renounce the wishes, to restore balance in the world. And then she became an antagonist in that way. And then later on, she makes another wish to become an apex predator. And then that's when we see her transform fully into the Cheetah that we know from the comics. As far as visual effects go, it was handled very well. The different things that Wonder Woman does looks very stellar as well. In terms of how Patty Jenkins shot everything. There was this one scene that I was very impressed by, where Wonder Woman is trying to stop this this, I guess, a convoy of tanks that were rolling through Maxwell Lord's security team and all that. And she starts to have some trouble, because now how the Dreamstone works is a bit like a monkey's paw, where you wish for something but it takes something in return. So we see that her powers are slowly waning, because Steve Trevor is there. And when he sees her struggle, there was this scene where he drives the car that they were following into the back of a tank, and we follow the action from the time that the car actually makes impact to the tank. We see it from a POV driving perspective. We see the impact, and then the camera or the shot doesn't break, and Steve Trevor still climbs out from the car onto the tank. I was pretty impressed by that. And we see also how Wonder Woman eventually learns to fly, because that's something that's always been up for debate, especially in the DCEU. We've always known in the comics that she can fly, but it was never very clear in the movies. And how they did it in this film, it was a bit of a meaningful thing because flying is something that she always saw as Steve Trevor's gift, because he was the first pilot she ever met when she came out of Themyscira. So she considered it as a talent of his. And when she finally learned how to fly, it became a way for her to meaningfully remember him in a way through the experience of flying herself, So I thought that was pretty good. But my partner's probably gonna kill me for saying all of these negative things because I saw the film with her last night and she enjoyed it thoroughly. We both did. It's just that, my analytical brain never switches off when I'm watching a movie. And the other thing that I didn't like is how they introduced the invisible plane, When I saw the trailer and there was that scene where Steve Trevor was like, well, the way I fly, they'll never find us. And then she's like, oh, I forgot to tell you about radar. So I already knew that, okay, that's probably something that's leading into how the invisible plane is discovered, but I was leaving it up to the movie to show me exactly how. And it turns out that it's a spell that she learned from one of her family members back in Themyscira, and she just kind of did it. So for me, that sort of cheapened the whole thing of, the origin of the invisible plane. It just made it too easy and convenient for her. And the final confrontation as well was pretty entertaining as far as Wonder Woman fighting Cheetah, because, it was the kind of confrontations that we've seen in a lot of the animated movies and the comics where Cheetah is a very formidable foe for Wonder Woman, in terms of speed and agility and her power as well and her prowess as a fighter. And it was depicted pretty well in the film. But at the end, what saved, humanity and convinced Maxwell Lord to renounce his wish was her giving him a very hopeful speech through her lasso of truth that she broadcast through Maxwell Lord's system of, I think it was like a new sort of like satellite technology where everything was connected and so on and so forth. And the other thing I couldn't quite understand as well, and I kept saying this throughout the film, Maxwell Lord's wish when he found the Dreamstone was to become the Dreamstone. I never quite understood that, because I get the guy's after power and everything, but if I were him, I would have just wished for a few $1 billion so that all of the business ventures that he was trying to get off the ground, he would just do, I feel like it was an excuse as far as writing is concerned for him to be a maniacal villain who's after absolute power. But still, it didn't make sense to me to wish to become the Dreamstone itself. I didn't understand. But the film was very enjoyable. I did like the new way in which she uses her lasso in the film, how she deflects bullets with it and so on and so forth. And a whole lot of other acrobatic things that she does. Like the one time when she lassos lightning, it was never explained, but it looked cool. I thought that was cool. And how she learned how to fly. I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Oh yeah, and the way in which we see how Zack Snyder is definitely a producer on this film is that whilst she's giving this very hopeful speech at the end of the film, we hear the beautiful Lie song from Batman vs. Superman. I guess that was also their way of showing how the film is connected to the rest of the DCEU films leading up to Justice League. Again, I have to say, I don't know, it was a bit too convenient and easy to show the connecting tissue in that way, just by having a song that was in another film that's in the same universe. It's the same way I complained about how in Batman vs. Superman, the rest of the Justice League characters were introduced from one single, video of CCTV footage that shows them doing different things, It was too sort of like, easy and convenient kind of thing. I didn't see any effort or creativity as far as that's concerned. But look, I did enjoy the film for what it was, The fight at the beginning at the shopping center where Wonder Woman, blacks out the cameras and takes out those criminals was pretty cool. And one of the things that sort of showed how true she was to her comic book counterpart is how close she is with kids, because Wonder Woman as a character is known as the defender of love, so to speak. So that did shine through a lot. Gal Gadot's acting, I will say, has improved considerably since the last time we saw her as Wonder Woman. That has always been one of my complaints about her, but it seemed to have improved a lot this time. But I feel like It's possible that, you know, it was intentional, that the movie was kind of cheesy. Maybe it was sort of like an homage to the superhero films that came out during that time, you know, the Christopher Reeve Superman, the 1989 Batman by Tim Burton, that was his name. So maybe it was an intentional homage, but I don't know, it didn't come off that way. It came off as though it happened by accident, if you know what I mean. But if it was intentional, kudos to Patty Jenkins. But yeah, it was a great film. I recommend you guys go and see it. It's a nice excuse to go out to the theater and, you know, stand up to this virus that's got us all suppressed like a supervillain. But let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the film if you've seen it. If you enjoyed my review, please click on the thumbs up icon and leave us a like. If you'd like to see more from Nth-Level Entertainment, please click subscribe and be sure to ring that bell icon so you are notified each and every time I drop new content on this here channel. As usual, people, I have been Zwele Tumashlangu. Thanks for hanging out with me, and take care of each other. Stay awesome. Stay chasing your dreams to infinity and beyond.